Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. This episode is brought to you by PCBWay, and with me today is absolutely nobody special, and that's because I've been working like crazy. In fact, I even had someone reach out and want to come onto the podcast, so they're going to be featured in an episode very shortly now. But for today, it's just you and me. So as I'm recording this is Wednesday, the 10th of April, and I have been working since Easter Monday, including an overtime day 2 days ago. It's been really busy for me in the automotive world, so I didn't get too much done in the electronics world. Do have stuff to say about that, though, and then there's going to be some regular life updates towards the end of the podcast like I try to do. So just a little warning, if the podcast episode is a little bit shorter, it's because I've been ridiculously busy. I haven't even been live streaming. So yeah, here it goes. First things first, I want to say that the Uni-T hookup video, the video that I made where Uni-T sent me 6 of their awesome pieces of test gear, I edited it down from my live stream and I put it live on my channel. And so far, you folks seem to be absolutely loving it, which is good to see because, I mean, on my end, the pleasure was easy, right? I mean, it's not every day that you get to unbox so much test gear like that and take a quick look at it. Obviously, it's not a review or anything yet, at least. It's just opening the boxes, seeing what we got, giving them a little spin, and then on to the next one. So the video ended up being almost an hour long, like 40-some minutes long after the edit. But this is edited down from a 3 to 4 hour live stream over on the live streaming channel. And yeah, the comments that are generated are pretty awesome. A lot of you are really engaged into it, which is really nice. And I've actually cleaned up a little bit of space above my workbench so that I can place the items as I am finished doing the first look videos. So you can expect some first look videos to be coming in slowly over time, probably in the next 30 days or so. Should have them all done, and then they're going to be released, as time allows. Starting probably with the power supply, because a lot of the things that I was sent by Uni-T, I have other versions of them. Maybe not as good. But I do have other versions of them. So, for example, I have an oscilloscope already. I have 2, actually, oscilloscopes already. 3 if you count a old analog one that I have. So, those I have already. Benchtop multimeter. I got a ton of multimeters here. And obviously, all of my multimeters are lower spec than the one that Uni-T sent, but I've got multimeters. The thing that I don't have really is the benchtop power supply because it is linear. All of my power supplies that I've been using up to date are switch mode power supplies, so they don't have as clean of an output. So I'm going to start with the power supply. I've read through the user manual pretty much cover to cover. It's very interesting. It can do a lot of really cool things, like you can bridge 2 channels in series or 2 channels in parallel, and so you can get double the current or double the voltage, which will be very nice. The one thing I do wish it had was a negative rail. So I believe you can generate a negative rail by putting 2 of the channels in series and then using the midpoint, the positive of channel 1 or the negative of channel 2 as your midpoint. I'll have to try that because I did order those op-amp boards and I do want to learn a little bit about op-amps. And so that's going to be on the to-do list. We're going to give it a shot. It's going to be a pretty interesting video, I think, because I've never really touched a piece of equipment that, that's worth this much, that's up to this spec. So I'm going to try my best not to fry it, but at the same time, I do want to try out a whole lot of its features, especially because I'm going to be, using it in the future pretty much for the rest of my YouTubing career. Hopefully it lasts that long. I mean, I don't have too much doubts when it comes to Uni-T, but you never know, right? If you abuse things, it is what it is. It's probably going to be hard to do a warranty claim too if I got the devices for free. So that's going to be a little bit weird, but I am really excited. These tools, especially the power supply and the benchtop multimeter and the thermal camera, really make me feel like my channel has leveled up. And a lot of you have been really supportive in the comments, so I'm loving that. I can't wait to put those videos out and to continue and add them into my test suite. So when I get things in, I can't wait to use the linear power supply so I get really clean, really precise power. The 5.5-digit multimeter is going to be awesome for testing the accuracy of, either power supplies or switch modules or voltage references, stuff like that. That's going to be amazing. The thermal camera, I actually bought a macro lens for it separately. So we're going to be able to take a look up close at PCBs, see what components are heating up and stuff like that. So all these things are going to be integrated into my regular test suite and make things better, which is why I have delayed the cheap Fluke multimeter videos. So as some of you know, I have 4 cheap Fluke multimeters, and I have filmed a unboxing video for them. And I do want to give them, rigorous testing. And I have delayed that until my Uni-T, lab upgrade is all set up, because that's going to be a part of the testing. I'm going to check the voltage source with the new multimeter and with the new power supply used to, test voltages. So this is all going to be integrated into my sort of regular flow. And it should end up with a little bit better answers as to whether or not you should buy X, Y, or Z. So that's going to be pretty awesome, I think. Another thing that you guys can look forward to is very shortly, probably this weekend, I'm going to be releasing a new PCB. I have done the PCB I was talking with Julian Eilert about having the H7 bulbs, 4 of them on a PCB. One PCB where they're all in parallel, one where they're all in series, one where 2 are parallel, 2 are series. And so I've made these PCBs. They're going to be available, and I have 3D printed cases for them. I have the designs all set up and ready. Videos filmed, edited, uploaded, ready to go. My Patreons are, have access to it already, but you guys will have access to it probably by the weekend. That's if I remember. Now, Saturday is my first day off in a long time, so we will see if I remember, but I should be able to remember. And that thing's pretty cool too, because that load can also be used for testing as well, like putting a load on power supplies, and then using the 5.5-digit meter to take a voltage measurement, because I purposely put enough terminals on that PCB so that you should be able to do 4-wire measurement, which is pretty awesome. And also, it's just a great general purpose load that's not electronic, because electronic load will fight an electronic power supply for voltage and current regulation. So that's going to be pretty good too. I also got another 4 bulbs in the mail. So another 10 bulbs in the mail. So I'll be able to populate more boards at the same time. I should be ready to test kind of whatever is coming my way. So we'll have to see about that. Speaking of accomplishment, I'm not sure if I have mentioned this in a previous podcast or not. So, I've been a bit frazzled lately, so forgive me if I have. But the Voron V0 kit that I have ordered off AliExpress from the seller Cybor is now complete. So the build is finished. It's all put together. It is printing. However, it's not exactly printing at the super high quality I have come to expect from Voron. Now, this might be because no tuning has been done. So basically, I put it together. I tuned the extrusion length. So, how much filament the extruder sucks in compared to what the control board thinks it has sucked in. So that is done. I can do it with a little bit more precision. I think I will do that again. But I have not done any other tuning aside from that. The print quality is good, but I would just leave it as good, whereas a lot of Vorons print absolutely amazingly. There's a little bit of, I can see banding. I can see sort of lines laying, the layer lines. I can see them quite clearly, and they're not 100% consistent. But also the hot end tends to blob up every now and again. It's it was supposed to come with a E3D V6 CHT clone. So that's a clone of one that the nozzle goes in through the middle, and the heater is all around the nozzle instead of like a cylinder that goes into a block. But it came with a Rapido clone, which is very similar to the one used in the Bamboo Labs. However, I don't think that the stock profile from Cybor is that great, basically. I don't think retraction distance is properly set. I don't think the pressure advance is properly set. I'm going to have to spend some time and tune it, but it does print pretty well. I would say it prints pretty good quality prints out of the box. I just need to now tune it. However, a major milestone has been crossed because I went onto the Voron subreddit and I got my serial number. So for those of you who don't know, you don't build a Voron, you build your Voron. So every machine is sort of unique because of the person who builds it. It's not a kit per se. It's just a bill of materials. You gather the parts and you put it together. In my case, Cybor gathered the parts because it was more cost effective to do it like that. And I put it together. I have some comments to make on that, but that's neither here nor there. That'll be part of the video, which I will be filming shortly about that, the whole process. However, once you're finished, and the wires are managed, at least where the hot end is, the panels over the electronics are positioned, you take a short video, including your Reddit username and your Discord username on a piece of paper, handwritten in the video. You can also, 3D print your Discord username. And you take a video of it printing, you upload it to the subreddit, the Voron subreddit, and then you are assigned a serial number in the order of which you completed it. So my Voron V0 now has a serial number, which is V0.3525. Wow, this is a bad time to have my dyslexia come out. So V0.3525 is now my Voron serial number. So that is me. I think you can look it up. There might be a registrar somewhere. But I have now this Voron V0 serial number assigned to me. So in the future, likely after the video, because I do want to make a video talking about the sourcing process, about the build process, the instructions, what it's like buying from Cybor compared to other vendors. I haven't tried other vendors yet, but I can at least share my experience with Cybor on AliExpress. And then after that, I'll probably do a video of, tuning the 3D printer to get the best possible results. And that should be fun all in itself. And then I have plans to modify it. So I'm already thinking of modifications. One thing is that I don't have a camera inside the build volume. So I've been ordering these USB cameras, which I'll probably make a separate video about them. They're these tiny little units. They're like a strip, like a PCB strip. They're really small. I think they're about 60 or 70 millimeters long, but only like about, less than 10 millimeters wide for sure. And they've got a tiny little camera on it. And I believe they have a microphone. You can get some with fixed focus, some with autofocus, and they have a USB cable coming off of them. It's like a tiny, like a Pico blade connector to USB. So these are effectively USB webcams, but they're absolutely tiny. I ordered some square form factor ones, and I ordered some rectangle form factor ones, and whichever ones are the better ones are going to end up on and around my 3D printers, because I've now got a whole bunch of them that need to be monitored. But yeah, it's going to be pretty nice to do a shootout of these tiny, USB webcams. And the thing is, they're only like $10 to $20 maximum. Like at the very low end, you can get some like $3-4, and then it goes up to like $60 for some really fancy like 4K ones. But I'm talking about just the basic webcams. They're like a maximum $20 Canadian, and that's really cheap, I find, and really small. And so we're going to see if they're any good. So we're going to probably do a shootout, likely on a live stream. I'm going to be filming it, and then I'll be editing it for YouTube consumption. But yeah, I wanted to share with you guys that the Voron V0 is finished, and my initial impressions, it's like building very complicated Lego, but at the end you have a useful machine out of it. Well, we'll see how useful mine is, obviously, because I put it together. But you have a useful machine out of it. You can do things with it. I did order some Lego for having fun, just, quietly building while listening to podcasts. But those Lego are going to have to go into, they're going to be display pieces after. This Voron, I built it myself, and now it's going to be a workhorse. And in fact, with the small form factor the way it is, I mean, it's going to be a workhorse. I want a second one already. I just don't want to pay for a second one, if you know what I mean. It was still $707 Canadian for one kit. But yeah, the process was interesting. It was fun. It was meditative. However, the fact that I got it off a third-party seller, Cybor, I believe made the experience much worse, because they have collected sort of like quote-unquote upgrades that they have decided to include. And it was very hard to find the instructions on how to install these upgrades, because the Voron team's instructions for building a Voron are really good. They're actually very well made. The pictures are pretty damn clear. They tell you, stuff that people typically forget so that you don't forget it. However, when Cybor has included, quote unquote upgrades, they are mostly designed by the community. And so the documentation is quite lacking on those upgrades compared to the original Voron instructions. So you get like a tray with a whole bunch of screws, like M3 by 6, M3 by 8, M3 by 10, M3 by 12, and 3 by 20. Like there's so many sizes. And like when you go to install, let's say the bed, the bracket that holds the heat bed on, it says in the instructions, the official Voron instructions, these are the hardware for the original bed. If you have an upgraded bed, a Kirigami bed they call it, go to this website or go to this GitHub repository and follow those instructions. Well, you go to that GitHub repository and they don't really have instructions. They tell you like there's about 12 screws of different, of 6 different lengths, but they don't tell you which screws go where. So you're kind of on your own for that. And they're like, oh, here's an installation guide. And you go and watch the installation guide video, and it's someone taking apart their original Voron bed so that they can adapt it to a Kirigami bed. So stuff like that was not really, it was really frustrating at the time when you're like following these fantastic instructions, then whoop, you get thrown off the cliff. So the experience overall, I would say I would do it again, but don't expect to be doing this, in any efficient amount of time. And you have to be good at the old Google foo, because it becomes very complicated to know which screw goes where when, you have to figure out a whole bunch of community mods and how they work together instead of the original Voron experience. Another thing that I didn't like is that Cybor, they offer a board, or in their kit is a control board that has a Raspberry Pi type computer. Not exactly Raspberry Pi. I think it's more like an Orange Pi type computer integrated. Well, to get that thing programmed, you follow all the instructions all the way to the end, and then they tell you to program it. You connect to USB. So you had just installed everything, probably managed your cables. If you're not me, I don't do cable management till the very, very end. But then you have to reopen up the whole machine to plug into the USB so that you can connect to this board. So there's a couple little things like that that just take a really nice build and make it frustrating. So yeah, I'm going to, compile a list of my thoughts, and I'm going to make a video about two things, really, about how it is to build a Voron V0, which I think it was pretty positive, and how it is to build the specific Voron V0 kit that I purchased, which I think was a little bit less positive. Is it better than other sellers? I don't know. I'd have to build another kit from another seller to know, but I will tell you, when it comes to time to order a second Voron V0 kit, I probably would try a different manufacturer. Probably try a different seller on AliExpress. Probably FormBot is going to be the next attempt. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. So since I don't have a lot of electronic stuff to talk about, I thought I would go over 3 projects that have been on my to-do list for a very long time, share with you the details of that project, and get your feedback on which of the 3 projects I should do first. So I'm going to explain option 1, 2, and 3, starting with option 1. And if your platform that you're listening to the podcast on allows feedback or comments or whatever, I'd like for you to let me know if option 1, 2, or 3 works best for you. Which one would you like to see first? And at the same time, if you can't give feedback, if you can go over to YouTube, pick up the podcast there, just add a comment telling me whether 1, 2, or 3 is best for you. And that'll give me some sense of direction on where to go, which video to prioritize first. So the first project I have in mind that I have had on my to-do list for a very long time is to automate some lighting for my workshop down here. So just a little bit of background. I have a 12-volt switching power supply, AC to DC type thing. I think it does like 400 watts or something like that. It's quite a bit of power output. And that right now is feeding my filming lights, 1 out of 3 filming lights, which are those LED panels that I've made on a PCBWay video a long time ago. So it's basically an aluminum backed PCB with, I believe, 12 LEDs on it. Each set of 4 LEDs have their own dropper resistor. And these panels are distributed above my workbench. It also powers 2 LED strips. These are high CRI LED strips that I bought on Amazon. They were quite expensive, and they go the length of some shelves on top of my new workbench. So if you watch the Uni-T video, that is like my second newest workbench, the newest workbench to make it onto YouTube at the very least. I use that workbench for things that are a little bit bigger, and otherwise it's just horizontal storage and fills up with junk as usual. However, the LED lights on that bench, they are starting to fail. So you might have noticed in the Uni-T video that some of the lights are flickering. And so part of the automation project would also include a new style of LED PCB type thing. So the ones I made before are these big rectangles, I think I'm going to make some longer and narrower ones for the next project. I have also found some surface mount, board to wire connectors, basically like these connectors with Sprung terminals on them. And I want to integrate that into it too, so that potentially if you guys order your own PCBs, you'll be able to link a whole bunch of these PCBs together and make really long, lighting strip with aluminum backs, so they'll be able to dissipate heat a little bit easier, and then you can make your own lighting setup. All this, the plan is to feed into a relay board, which I've already made the PCB of, which will then be connected to a ESP32, running a web page on my local network here. And then I'll be able to control the lights from my phone. But then on top of that, I would like to add some automation. So maybe have a PIR sensor or a microwave sensor to detect if I'm in the workshop or not. And if there is no motion detected, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, just shut off the lights to conserve electricity. The issue with my setup right now is that I'm just turning on and off that 12-volt power supply by turning on or off the power strip. And I was almost through printing something with the new Voron V0 when I headed upstairs for the night, and I shut off the power strip to shut off my lights, and that also shut off my Voron V0, so I didn't complete the print. So that was kind of sad, but it would be nice to be able to have the lights sort of be automated for when I walk down the stairs. Just a quick interruption to talk about this episode's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay has been a long-term sponsor of the channel, and I think they're a good match for my channel because they provide quality PCBs for a reasonable price. You can get boards manufactured up to 100 mils by 100 mils for just $5, including shipping to Canada, $15 US, including shipping to USA, $12 US, which is incredibly cheap for professionally manufactured PCBs. I can personally attest to the quality of these PCBs, and so if you want a circuit immortalized forever, check out PCBWay.com with the link in the description. Now back to the conversation. Oh yeah, another problem with my current setup is that the power strip's power switch is all the way into my workshop. So I have to sort of brave the darkness with all my stuff strewn all over the place and head all the way to the power switch, which is not illuminated, try to find it, and then flip it on. Or I can, light up the lights at the base of the stairs and then go all the way into my workshop, flip on the lights, and go all the way out of my workshop to flip off the other light. So it'd be nice to have some sort of automation. And the reason why this is super interesting to me is because we can approach this in several steps of things that I don't really know how to do. So for example, the ESP32, I have never run an ESP32 hosting its own website. So that is going to be something new for me to learn. I have never been able to use a website to, interact with variables on the ESP32. That'll be new as well. I've never had anything like sensors interacting with the ESP32, so that'll be another thing that I'll learn how to code. And at the same time, at the end, I get automated lights that we can just keep building on. I mean, it would be cool at the end of the line if that ESP32 can also control something on my workbench that my live streamers can control just for fun. But, this is all stretch goals. So it's all things that we can approach step by step by step in a way I can learn it, one thing at a time and not get too overwhelmed. And we probably end up getting, 4 or 5 videos on the subject. Option 2 would be my remote control rover platform. So this is basically something I've been already working on Fusion 360. Some of you may know about it and some of you may not. But the goal is to have sort of like a universal RC truck chassis that you can customize and print on a small 3D printer, maybe something like the V0, something relatively compact, but at least the size of like an Ender 3. and customize to your own will. So, do you want to make a 6-wheeled, Mars rover type thing? Well, with my system, you would be able to connect chassis pieces together and make a 6-wheel device. Do you want to make a, 2 steering wheels with 4 drive wheels in the back? That'll be possible. Do you want it to have 4-wheel steering? That'll be possible. Do you want to adapt tank treads to it? That'll be possible. So my idea is to have a central core, like something like a cuboid central core, and you can link a whole bunch of these pieces together. And then there would be like a core piece. Just think of like a long girder type of thing that you bolt together, a little bit like Lego, but 3D printed. There'll be one piece with steering on it, one piece with drive on it. The steering piece will be able to have drive, and the drive piece will be able to have steering. There'll be a couple types of suspension. So if you want to make yourself like a fast, road car with not a lot of suspension travel, or if you want to make your device go over obstacles and articulate, that'll have the option too. So that'll be the mechanical part, but then the electronic part is I would like to design my own circuitry, especially for the transmitter and receiver. Now, it should be of no surprise that I have the NRF24L01 in mind for this. I've always wanted to make my own remote control, receiver and transmitter. And so this would be the project to work on that. So we'll have the the NRF24L01. And then we're going to have the chassis, which is already sort of half designed, which is a good sign. And the goal would be to be able to make this low enough cost that people who want to enter the remote control car scene, or people who have ideas for experiments with like solar energy or battery chemistries or whatever, would have a platform for them to use. And at the same time, for me, it would be working my mechanical design skills and my electronical design skills. Who knows? The sky's the limit. So that would be option 2, is the open source sort of, RC car frame that you could just print parts at will and design it at will. So yeah, that's option 2. As for option 3, well, that would be a retro handheld console. So for those of you that have been following me for a little bit, you might know that I already have a 7-inch screen. I have purchased a whole bunch of controller bits and pieces. So that would be like the buttons, the shells, and stuff like that. So I can learn how to make my own sort of control schemes. I have also purchased all the parts to build a open source controller called the Alpaca. I have to check out if they had updated their stuff, but I have ordered a whole bunch of parts like a while ago for this, and they've just been sitting in stock. So yeah, the goal is going to be to use a Raspberry Pi 4, and I already have the Raspberry Pi. Actually, I already have most, if not all, the parts I need for this. But the idea is that the Raspberry Pi in a cooling case and the screen and some speakers will sit in a central shell, and the idea is that then it would have like controls on the side. It'd be like a handheld controller. But I also bought the pieces that allow Nintendo Switch controllers to slide in and out of the Nintendo Switch body, and I was thinking of integrating those. And when I make my own controllers, they would just slide onto the body like the Nintendo Switch. And so if people like a different style of controller, they would be able to swap them out. So they'd be able to have something closer to an Xbox, something closer to a PlayStation, and open it up to the community to make their own controllers that suits their needs. So again, this will test a lot of my mechanical design, but it will test also a lot of my electronical design, because I feel like each controller needs to be their own separate entity, or they need to communicate with each other, left and right. Or maybe they're just passive button boxes left and right, and the actual the controller circuitry is in the central core. I don't know yet, but the thing is that I've always wanted a retro console. I've been looking at them every time AliExpress has a sale, and it seems like there is none that really do what I want without it costing me like $200 or $300. And at that point, I am really close to a Steam Deck. Steam Deck is a handheld PC, which is way more capable than those retro machines. And so I always stop and I decide not to get one. However, if I design and build my own, not only will it teach me things like physical design, some electronical design, I also end up with my own, my own device, but then I also open source it so that everyone else can make their own modifications to it. And if I make PCBs, PCBWay is my sponsor, and so I will get paid for it. So it's kind of one of those things like, yes, I can buy a prefabbed unit and take a look at it and do a review, and it probably will do really well on my channel and get good views, but I still have to spend that money. Whereas in the other sense, I can make my own thing, which is customizable. If I don't like it, I can swap it, swap the components up, and then, I get something different. And on top of that, I will get paid. My costs will get reimbursed through my sponsorship with PCBWay. So it's one of those things. So that's option number 3, which will be a retro handheld console. So yeah, if you're able to leave feedback on the podcast, or if you're not, just go onto YouTube, go check out the podcast, and just, write a comment. Which one would you like? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? Number 1 is the automated lights in my workshop. Number 2 is the open platform remote control vehicle thing. And number 3 is the retro handheld console. Let me know what you think, because I need to focus down on one thing and get that one thing done. So I'd really love your input, especially from you folks, the podcast listeners who are the most hardcore people around. On a couple of last little notes on the electronics side before we hop into the personal side, I just want to let you guys know that some of you have been reaching out through my contact us section on my website, and you're letting me know that you're listening to the podcast and you're loving it. So to those of you that are doing that, I love you. You folks are the best already. That the podcast listeners are some of the best people out there, as well as my Patreon patrons, by the way. You folks that reach out and let me know that you love the podcast are really the reason that I keep going. And I would encourage you, all of the podcast listeners, to please consider the live stream channel. So that's youtube.com/@SE streams, not Swedish streams. It's Simple Electronic Streams. So SE streams, because that is the aspect of YouTubing that I love the most, to be able to record videos as I'm chatting with you guys, and you guys, give me feedback about what's going on and what you'd like to see in the videos and stuff live. That's the best part. That's the best part ever. The full Voron V0 build, I think there are 6 videos of it, 6 streams of it, anyways, is up on SE streams. And I believe on Saturday or Sunday, I will return to streaming in the mornings here in the Eastern time zone, because that is when my schedule is lightening a little bit. So all those videos that I was talking about earlier on, like working on the reviews, or the first looks, actually, I should say, of the Uni-T gear, that'll be probably done live on the SE streams, and then the full video gets edited and put onto my regular channel. Now, I don't want you to be confused. The Uni-T unboxing video took the footage that was recorded live, like the live stream footage and cut it up and edited. But typically when I record my videos, I use my regular recording camera, and the live stream audience is looking just off to the side of that. So the videos stay the same, but the live streaming experience is something altogether different. So if you guys would just go over to SE Streams and subscribe to it, it'd be great if I can get that channel monetized eventually, because it does seem like a lot of you go onto that channel after the fact to come check out what was going on. So I'm just going to pull up my stats here real quick. They're not super impressive, but the absolute live audience is usually like 4 or 5 people, but the people who come in and watch afterwards is quite a bit more. So you think 4 or 5 people, you know, come and take a look at my stuff live. But then if I'm looking at the 4th iteration of the Voron V0.2 build, I have 226 views on that. So 223 or so people came in after the fact to come take a look at the build, which is really interesting. And of those, there are still 0 comments. So, you know, 225 people have watched that live stream and there's 0 comments, which is pretty interesting. Just going to check the engagement here. The average view duration is about a half hour out of the full, you know, out of the full thing. But still, you guys are coming to see these live streams after the fact. So yeah, I would love for you guys to subscribe to that channel, give that channel a bit of a boost. Let's see if we can get it up. You know, you need 1,000 subscribers to get monetized, and I don't think that will happen, but I would like to see how close we can get it. So that would be really nice. So go over there, hit the subscribe, leave a comment somewhere. That'd be great. And this ends the electronics portion of the show. If you're only here for the electronics portion and the YouTube portion, then you know you can take off now. I'll see you next week. Should have a guest. But for those of you that like my personal updates and have asked me to keep doing personal updates, the rest of the show is for you, although it might not be a full hour. We'll see. All right, now that it's just us. So the next order of business. So I'm still finishing my really busy work schedule. Saturday will be my first day off. I'll probably see if I can stream on Saturday. It'll depend if it's raining. I got a lot of work to do outside, like in the backyard and stuff. But I might stream on Saturday, if not probably Sunday. But here is where my college contract ends. So I was filling in for a colleague that had a surgery. He's now all back up to snuff. And so since my program this summer got canceled due to lack of funding from the provincial government, you know, blah, 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 I'm going to have a bit more time, and I intend on spending it working on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is probably it's not my biggest revenue stream, because I do make some decent money as a mechanic, but it's just I can't work 5 days a week as a mechanic. My back just won't let me. My muscles won't let me. I'm getting old. It's very physical. But YouTube is the most amount of money I can make without being too physical about it. So I plan on live streaming quite a bit so that I can get some videos filmed, which means I can get some videos done, which means hopefully, you know, more subscribers, more views, whatever, more entertainment for you guys. So that's the plan at the very least, but you know, a plan doesn't always come together like that. The other thing is that I'm still without a car. So my poor Volvo V70 still needs that transmission replaced again. I haven't even had the chance to bring the transmission down into my workshop so I could take it apart and rebuild it. However, I did watch a transmission rebuilding video of someone doing the work on that kind of transmission. I want to shout them out here. So 50 SN rebuild. I just want to look him up real quick. But yeah, Curmudgeon Transmission. He's a gentleman who does quite a few transmission rebuilds. He's got a bunch of videos on the subject. I watched him do the disassembly and the rebuild of one of a transmission just like mine, and it gave me enough anxiety to last a lifetime. I'm not a stranger to doing big mechanical jobs like that, but the fluidity at which he went through it and how long it took him to disassemble it. This guy is a pro. He wasted no time at all. And it took him like, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes to disassemble this transmission. It's going to take me a week to take it apart, take all the bits apart, rebuild it back together, and then hope that it works. It's given me a crap load of anxiety. So I'm going to give it a shot, but for the moment, I need a car. I have been without a car for like nearly 6 months. I'm still paying insurance, like $110 a month or something on insurance on a car that I can't drive, because once you remove insurance from it, stuff becomes more of a pain in the butt. Anyways, long story short, I'm going car shopping. So tomorrow, tomorrow, which will be Thursday, that's the day that this goes live on YouTube, I have an appointment to go see another Volvo wagon. However, this one is a manual transmission. It is quite old. It's a 2005. I mean, mine's a 2001, but this one's a manual transmission. It's a bit in rough shape, but the price is right. So if I go take a look at it, it runs nice, engine sounds good, transmission doesn't need bearings or anything like that, and it looks like I can get it to pass a safety check with minimal effort, because I can't. I mean, I used to be able to sign my own safety checks because of the fact that I worked in the industry in a registered shop. However, I always made sure it passed the safety check regardless, because I don't want to lose my license if there's a inspection. However, now that I work for a small company in a different province, I can't, even if I wanted to, I can't sign my own safety checks. So it needs to go through a third party. And the big deal here is rust. So if there's rust perforation on structural components, it will not pass safety check. And then I bought a boat anchor, basically. So if it looks like it can pass safety check, I'll probably go ahead and buy it. But that also means that I lose my days off. I'm going to have to recondition this car, probably going to need brakes, suspension parts, stuff like that. Timing belt, water pump, accessory belts, fluids. It's going to need some work, but that means I'll probably get some wheels. Now, the other issue is that I have nowhere to park it. My house, there's room to park 2 cars, barely, bumper to bumper, basically front to back. And so a third car will mean some more complications, but look, the goal is I need a car for now. I'm going to fix my car, and I'll probably end up selling my car, the one with the bad transmission, depending on, what this new car is like. I also have a couple other cars I'm looking at. One is like a 2005 Honda Accord, also manual transmission, but that one's not insured, not plated, so who knows what condition it's in. But that's quite of a distance out of town to go take a look at. And there's a 2008 manual Civic, which also in decent shape, but again, a little bit out of town and a little bit more expensive. So, we will see what happens. But I need a car, because right now, since the demand for my time has grown exponentially, I need to be out of the house much more. I have to drive my wife's car, and then my wife is stuck at home. Luckily, unlucky for her, but luckily for the situation, she's been sick with a cold for a little while. So she's been stuck at home anyways. But now she wants to get back to doing her regular stuff. She needs her car. I mean, it's just fair. So yeah, it looks like I'm going to be spending a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of effort on a used car in a time where the used car market is kind of bad for buyers. So that's what's going on there. Otherwise, well, I'm trying to get things ready for summer. So I have some lumber here, and I need to set up my solar panel projects. I need to run some wires from inside my workshop to outside there through some sort of a grommet. I'll have to figure that out. And then, get ready to put the solar panels up. The sun is out finally in Ottawa here. Just after the eclipse, it's now like 21 degrees Celsius, whereas last Wednesday, exactly 7 days ago, we had a blizzard that dropped almost a foot of snow in Ottawa. So yeah, so now it's like in the mid 70s degrees Fahrenheit, where back then it was like below freezing. So you do the math on that whiplash. So yeah, I've got some wood ready to go. Going to build a stand. I want to kind of build it in a way that the panels will be adjustable. So that's going to be an interesting build. And also, I want it in a way that I can then raise it up and have it be the roof of a shed. So I plan on building a shed eventually. And this structure that the solar panels will sit on will eventually go on the roof of that shed. So yeah, it's a whole thing in progress, right? So hopefully you guys will join me for that. The shed stuff will likely be on the second channel, SE Con Dairy, but the solar projects that come out of it will end up on the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. So yeah, that's all the updates for now. This summer, it seems like I'll be a lot less busy because of my canceled program due to lack of funding. And hopefully that will inspire me to work a lot more on the Simple Electronics YouTube channel and the Dan Fixes Cars YouTube channel. Hopefully you guys will watch those videos and enjoy it. But for now, I'm going to have to edit this thing, so I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Thanks for listening.